By 26, I made $40 million, but here is the truth. I was born in Belgrade, Serbia. My family didn't have much, but we had hope. When I was still young, my parents made a decision that would change everything. We moved to Geneva, Switzerland. A new country, a fresh start. But even in Geneva, surrounded by wealth, it didn't feel like we belonged. Everywhere I looked, there were people driving Ferraris, living in mansions. And I kept asking to myself, what do these people do for a living? How did they get there? I wasn't jealous, I was just curious. Because while most people were content with what they had, I wasn't. I wanted more, not just for me, but for my family. I would walk up to people on the street, strangers in fancy cars, and ask them, what do you do for a living? No camera, no content, just pure curiosity. I wish I had recorded those moments, but back then, it wasn't about content creation, it was about survival, it was about understanding how to break out of the cycle we were stuck in. At 16, I wasn't waiting for opportunities, I was creating them. I would buy cigarettes from a duty-free shop at the airport and then sell them back for a markup. I even had some rich friends whose parents owned clubs, so I would book tables for people and take a cut. Honestly, at this point, anything to make quick cash. But my parents weren't impressed. My dad sat me down one day and said, "This is not a long-term business model, it won't last, my son." And deep down, I knew he was right. These little hustles were just temporary fixes. I needed something bigger, something that could last. That's when I started looking at the bigger picture. The people driving those luxury cars weren't just flipping cigarettes or booking tables. They were investors, hedge fund managers, traders. That's when it hit me, and I knew what I wanted to do. I got my bachelor and master in finance from one of the best universities in the UK. But let me tell you something, those degrees didn't make me rich. They gave me structure, discipline. But frankly speaking, the real education, it all came from the market. When I started trading, everything clicked. The money started flowing, and fast. But here is the thing, even when I had $1 million in my bank account, I didn't rush out to buy a car. I waited until I had £1.2 million before I bought my first McLaren.
Whoa.
Why 1.2 million? Simply because I wanted to be able to spend 200,000 British pounds on a car and still have 1 million British pounds liquid in my bank. But that's beside the point. If there is one thing that university taught me well, it's that making money was easy, yes, but keeping it was a real challenge. But even with all that money, driving Rolls-Royce, McLaren, Lamborghinis, being in private jets, first class, like something felt off. When you make that kind of money, people start treating you differently. Friends you haven't heard from in months suddenly want to catch up. But deep down, you notice it's not about you, it's about your success. They don't see you anymore, they see what you have, what you own, and who you're hanging out. At this point, everything changed. I realized the hardest part wasn't making the money anymore, but figuring out who was real. At 23, I lost my best friend and business partner, Yassine. We built everything together. We made millions together. And then he was gone. Cancer took him. Just like that. After he passed, I wanted to quit. The money, the trading, everything. I felt empty. My vices started to creep in. I started drinking more than I had ever drunk before. Spending hundreds of thousands on silly things I thought would bring me hope. The money, the girls, the cars were all distraction to what I had set out to do initially. This was the lowest period of my life. But I knew Yassine wouldn't have wanted to see me here. So I kept pushing for him, for us. The more money I made, the more I realized something. It wasn't all about that. It was about my family, making them really proud, giving them the life we never had before. That's what fulfilled me. I usually don't open up, but I feel like it's important for me to be real with you. I remember sitting on the coast of Nassau with my father, the salty breeze rolling in from the ocean, the waves gently lapping against the shore. It was one of those rare, peaceful moments, just the two of us, sharing stories as the sun dipped below the horizon. At one point, My father leaned back, looked out at the endless blue, and recited a story I had never heard before. A simple story, yet one of the most profound I have ever encountered. The parable of the Mexican fisherman. It goes like this. A successful businessman was vacationing in a small coastal village when he saw a local fisherman pulling his boat ashore with a modest catch of fish. The businessman, curious, asked how long it had taken him to catch them. "Only a little while," the fisherman replied. The businessman was puzzled. "Why don't you stay out longer and catch even more?" The fisherman shrugged. "I have had enough to support my family. I spent the rest of my time playing with my children, taking siestas with my wife, and sharing drinks with my friends." The businessman scoffed. "But if you worked harder, you could buy a bigger boat, catch more fish, sell to bigger markets, and eventually own a whole fleet. You could become rich." The fisherman said. "And then what?" "Well, then you could retire, move to a small village, sleep in, fish a little, play with your kids, take siestas, and enjoy time with your friends." The fisherman chuckled. "Isn't that what I'm already doing?" As my father finished the story, I just sat there letting it sink in. That moment shifted something in me. We chase so much success, wealth, status, thinking they will lead us to happiness, when in reality the things that truly matters are already within our grasp. Thinking they will lead us to happiness, when in reality the things that truly matter are already within our grasp. I realized then that time is the most valuable thing we have, and how we chose to spend it defines our lives. From that day forward, I promised myself to invest more time in the people and things that truly matter to me. Because in the end, the real wealth isn't in your bank, it's in the people that you really love. The more money I made, the more I realized it wasn't all about that. Money can buy you cars, houses, even fake friends, but it can't buy you time, it can't buy you authenticity, and it can't buy you purpose. Find what matters to you, hold into it, because that's the real success.